So then the next item on our agenda is about outreach for the River Road Santa Clara Neighborhood Plan. So the city is, their budget is allowing us to run through the end of this year, but that's about it. And so working backwards about trying to get our River Road Santa Clara Neighborhood Plan in front of both planning commissions and both elected bodies by the end of the year requires us to do a couple of things. And in our charter, both River Road Community Organization and Santa Clara Community Organization are required to either endorse or not endorse our plan in previous to taking it to planning commissions and electeds. So in an effort to be able to actually represent our community organization, I think we really have to do a significant amount of outreach between now and taking a position on our own neighborhood plan. And so that's one of our big asks for the summer, is trying to figure out how to get that information in front of people, or what kind of events we think we might be able to muster. And I am looking for creative ideas from any and all people. So if you have anything.
What was the time frame on that?
Well, we're thinking June and July for getting out to neighbors. I realize it's already the 1st of June, so we gotta ramp it up. Mary.
So what kind of information are you gonna want to get out? Do you hand them the giant pamphlet? Do you say this is what it is? What kind of information are you going to give to people?
That's a really good question. So we're creating a mailer from the city that is a FAQ about the neighborhood plan that talks a little bit about what is the neighborhood plan, what is it going to do, how is it related, because there's all these other issues being conflated, like what is moving ahead and how is that related or unrelated, and what is House Bill 2001 and how is that related or unrelated. And I think it's personally, I think for our neighborhood plan to succeed, we need to be able to parse what is our responsibility and what isn't, and what our neighborhood plan can do and what it doesn't do, so that we have a real accurate description of the plan for our neighbors to be able to make educated choices about it. And I think part of the outreach is about asking people. So, we spent our first 2 years gathering all kinds of public input, and did we get there? Does this represent what you said, what you heard your neighbors say? Is this where we're at? And I guess it's a little bit fuzzy right now, Mary. I understand in terms of what we're really asking them for, but there are lots of people who aren't going to read the whole plan, the 100 pages. Jerry?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that, I've read the whole 100 pages, and it's really down the weeds, and people who haven't been involved with this will just get blown away mentally. And so I'm thinking that what we need to do is present what the vision is in the plan, not the plan, but what we're trying to create in the future, the vision. And so some kind of easy format for them to see, and then they can go back to the plan and see how it reinforces or informs that vision.
That's helpful. Yeah, Mary.
So an issue I'm having is I don't think it's a very good plan. And I don't think we hit the mark. And I don't think, when 300 people, however many years ago, showed up that kind of dreary night and had their vision, I don't think this plan was what anyone envisioned. And so I don't feel comfortable selling this plan except to say, I don't think it's a good plan. And I think the process, I don't know, I could think a lot about how did this process work and what went wrong. And I don't know what a better process is, but people put in a lot of energy and a lot of time And my feeling is we got kind of a mini corridor study, and we're changing some commercial stuff on River Road, most of which is not going to happen because it's not feasible, and really not much promises of anything else. I mean, promises like maybe we'll do it one day. But I think the process was, I don't think it worked. Am I the only one who feels that way? Because if you guys are all on board, that's fine. I get it. But I think we should tell the neighborhood, this did not work. This is not what you envisioned. And I don't know how to make it better, but I don't think we should accept what we have.
I just want to talk as someone who was sort of in and out of the process. And so I'm more to the person who doesn't know where it ended up. So what I would be looking for is a presentation that tells me the why. I think, the vision that Jerry talked about, what was the vision? And then what is it that we ended up with? Because I've looked at the 100 pages. I haven't gone through it thoroughly. There is a better summary on the city website, but what is it? Because I think the person who hasn't been involved with it, that's what they're going to want. They're going to want a 20-minute presentation on what did we end up with, and hopefully it sounds good to them. And so I'm thinking 20 minutes. I think Kate said something that I liked, which was this is what it is and this is what it isn't. So the vision that Jerry mentioned, that this is what it is the vision, this is what it is, and this is what it isn't, because there are going to be a lot of expectation. There's going to be a lot of confusion. There are going to be a lot of topics that come up that we can't even deal with, that we won't deal with. And I think that needs to be out there. But what is the plan? It's 100 pages is too much to bite, to chew on.
Gary.
I just wanted to kind of respond to Mary. I think that Mary's kind of hung up in the whole land use thing. Land use was really murky and hard. If you look at all the rest of the plan, I'm definitely for it.
Well, I guess I'll put my 2 cents in here. I agree with Mary. We didn't get everything we thought we would. We thought it was this, and you're not 100% satisfied. There's pieces and parts that are good, and pieces and parts that are just pie in the sky. We'd like to do that. At what point in time does it come down to? For me, it's the transportation issues. We can't get from one freaking stoplight to the next because of X, Y, Z for different reasons. But the safety issue that we have out there. Do you take what is there, which may be the best thing that we have, but it maybe missed the mark, in order to get the other services that you want, or the other connections that we need, or things of that nature? Are we sacrificing one to get the other, or not yet? I mean, we keep wanting to make giant intersection changes and doing things of this nature, but just getting for example, an auxiliary bridge across the river without making the highway the biggest, but we're segmenting that, and we're not making this holistic issue that I think we want to. I feel a little. I think the process worked well because we were well involved. Whether you want it to be or not, it was well involved. There's a lot of issues, time to step up or not. But I think it just we're looking for niches to either gain money to build things, or to fit a box to say, yes, we did that too. The bus route, LTD is a big issue, because it's like, do we really need this? The capacity issues. We have the issues with the commercial and stuff like that. I just looking at, how do we as a group, do we give our best shot, and do we just wait and see, or go back to a different square? It's a lot of rambling. Thanks.
I guess personally, I look at it as sort of my best metaphor I can come up with is somebody who's about like 8.5 months pregnant and now is having buyer's remorse. Like, oh, I don't know, but there is no turning back at that point. And I feel like we're sort of in that position. We've put in 5 years of work, and there is a lot of really good parts to our plan. And there are some parts that just are never going to be what we want them to be. But this is the opportunity, right? This next 6 months, we either buck up and put a lot of energy into getting our community engaged and informed and hearing from them. And we've been told that there can still be minor changes based on input we receive from our community. It's not that it's this or nothing. And I just feel like it's not, well, I think if we were to turn around at this point, we burn our credibility with the community, we burn our credibility with the city, they burn their credibility with our community. The whole thing is a big cluster mess. So I'm of the opinion it's the time to jump in with 2 feet and be all in and make it the very best we can make it.
Could I say something? I really don't have any place to be saying this, but you know, you guys worked really, really hard for a lot of years to get to where you're at. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be looking at this for the first time and be up in arms about it. And they didn't do anything. They weren't party to all that work, all those meetings, all that effort that was put forward. So they're going to be relying upon your positive spin on the position that you take. And that's the only thing they're going to hear, because there's going to be enough naysayers that are going to be complaining about different aspects of what you've done. And you got to be able to have consensus about what you can support with the good things that you said you're going to get out of that, and stay focused on that. And don't worry about the negative, because you're going to hear that anyway.
Thanks,
And
Kevin.
Right.
I don't know that I've seen anything that's necessarily bad in it. It's just I think maybe a lot of the things I was looking forward to in the working on it process it just isn't going to happen for 30 years. And it's a lot of like, these are what our community aspires for and supports these specific kinds of like projects for the Parks Department and economic opportunities for businesses and that kind of thing. And it's just like waiting for somebody to come and bite that apple and build the thing. And, you know, some of the things we as a community organization have to fundraise and build ourselves. Other things, we're hoping for somebody to come build the grocery store at whatever intersection to support the 20-minute neighborhoods kind of thing. So I get the kind of lack of enthusiasm, I guess. But I don't know that I see anything bad in it. So I would support it. I would be open to hearing things that people wish were better, but I think it's like our noses to the grindstone to get some of this stuff actually built.
And you guys deserve a huge pat on the back for all that you were able to accomplish. I mean, that is no easy feat. To go into do a refinement plan like you've done over the last 10 years is absolutely phenomenal. So pat yourselves on the back. You may have been a little road worry with the outcome of the whole thing, but I got to tell you, you're a lot further ahead than a lot of people could have gotten to under the same circumstances. So well done. I mean, you need to pat yourselves on the back and be happy with what you guys were able to accomplish. I mean, you guys did a spectacular job. At least that's what I think.
And beyond like the plan, it seems like the most tangible thing that we have right now at our fingertips is land use code is going to change, which is like woohoo, right?
I think the idea is it's setting the course for how, right? The plan is for the next 30 years. It's to point us in the right direction. Every time there's funding for transportation or funding for parks or funding for economic development, or there's building opportunities, right? We've articulated the values of the community. And so we're working towards manifesting those visions, but I don't think anybody, I mean, I know I didn't assume that it would all happen at the point of adoption. That's just not feasible. But, you know, I think that it's an important, I guess I look at it and I say, okay, if we were to back out now we get our old refinement plan from 1982. Is that really what we want? It's not what I want. I've been the land use committee trying to work with that document to meet the needs of our community, and it's totally ill-fitted to the task. You know, I think that there's a whole lot that is worth advocating for. And
Well,
go ahead, Mary.
I'd be open to having you and Jerry sell me on this plan. I really would, to see what you like about this plan and why you think it's great. I'm serious about that, because I'm not seeing it basically, but it's a false thing to say. Like the only option is what we have, which is not a strong argument. Well, this is what we ended up with. Could have been worse. Or what we used to have in the olden days, which is even worse. That's not a good selling. Like this is better than the crap we had before. And I think in some ways, if we said no, which is clearly not going to happen because I'm the only one who feels that this is not a good plan. I think it would be a little wake up call for the process, and the way it is working is not really reflecting what people want. And people had to go through a lot of hours and agony to get something that people are saying, well, it could have been worse.
So what specifically do you think is bad? Because we, as Kate said, we still have some leeway to change things.
I don't think we ended up with a plan to start out with. On land use stuff, the land use stuff is just, it's not even competent. It's technically can't be done, a lot of it. Doesn't make any sense. And when I think about what my neighbors wanted and what they visioned, there's literally no vision in this. I don't see anything about sustainability. I don't see anything that's addressing the fact that it's getting hotter and climate change is happening. I don't see anything about water. I don't see anything about really parks. I see we are going to strive to do something in the future, but I don't see anything. I told this story before. I'm sorry, Jerry's going to have to hear this. I read an article about some sustainable, affordable housing in a Scandinavian country. The thing that struck me about it wasn't the house and this and that, is that it was in an area zoned for experimental sustainable housing. Not sustainable housing, experimental sustainable housing. Now that's a plan that is looking to the future. And I think this plan is just dabbling around the edges, tiny little bits around the edges, when we should really be I think we should be bolder. And I don't think we ever got there because we kept waiting for the process to resolve. And it's 8.5 months later, but we kept saying, wait. And they said, oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We get to that. We never got to that. So I'm done. I realize that I'm a party of one on this one, but I'm open to persuasion.
Well, I'd like to hear, like, if you could sit down and write a list about the ways that we ought to reach farther, be bolder. I'm happy to have that. It's not too late till it's too late. So let's go for that, whatever it is. But
I also think this is an option, it's part of the menu that we get. And if you have something to start with as this, is it better than the 1982? If it is, you go to the next step. And then it's, how do we get to that vision, as Mary was talking about, to that next step that we really want to be? You got to get somewhere. And is that good enough to do what we've done? Because you probably have less than 1% of the actual community input for this, for everybody. And, like Kevin said, everybody's going to say, I never heard of this. So how do we move on as a community? I like some of it. I want some place to start and say, help us get to here, but then let's get to the next spot and the next spot. We have to have a baseline somewhere. But I want to make sure it's not just checking a box and we filled out, this grant to get X because we can meet these metrics. Great, but nothing happened. I don't want that either.
To me, I think part of what this, going back to this, the idea that one of you said of, what is it and what isn't it, right? The bottom line, what I've thought of it at what it is an aspirational document that puts ourselves ahead of, to a certain degree, ahead of the decision about our destiny. Because if we don't vision our future, then I will paraphrase many of the irritated people who show up at certain kinds of our meetings, right? You'll hear a person rise up and say, the city's just going to do what they want to do anyway. You know, like the city does stuff to Santa Clara, and Santa Clara shakes our fists and says, no annexation, or whatever we're against, right? I mean, the forces who get all bent out of shape about the next thing that the city wants to do to us, this is the antidote to that. This is the document that says, well, we as a community, and I have felt uncomfortable from the beginning about the fact that it's maybe 1% of our community who participated in any way. And I totally get how hard it is to get more than 1% of the community to pay attention to anything. So I'm not criticizing that. I'm just saying fundamentally it has been a problem and a challenge in everyone. Whenever you do this stuff, you know, a small percentage of our community got ahead of the curve and said, and threw an anchor out into the future and said, here's a direction we can go. Here's a aspirational vision we can have. And it's not complete, and it's certainly not every single piece of it meets everybody's needs. And there's even deep disagreements among the people who participate, the 1% who participated. Some of us don't like certain pieces of it, and some of us love certain pieces of it. But if we don't do anything, right, then the city just does stuff to us, and then we have to respond to the city. This is a way of putting something ahead of the game that says, these are the kinds of things we want. But even if we decided this is a great document that everybody in the whole community loves, at the end of the day, nothing makes the city or the county do any of it just the way it says in there. It's not binding for anything. So it doesn't direct how things happen. It doesn't change code. It doesn't, I mean, maybe some code changes will happen as a result of some of the stuff in it. But it in of itself isn't the way we're going to develop. There, done. It's a step past 1982 that's in a direction that a whole bunch of us worked on that feels like there's a lot of good stuff in it. I don't know if that's just, I mean, that's just the way I see it. I don't know if that's helpful in any way. I think it's vulnerable to criticism, just like everything is all the time. We're already seeing the criticism right now happening around transit stuff. I never heard about any of that. There's never been any community process. Well, yes, there has, but I never heard about it, you know, says lots of people. It's baked into this. Those of us who participate are always going to be criticized for not doing enough outreach. We're always going to be criticized for not having had enough input.
All right. Well, I feel like I've heard a good round view of people's opinions. So it didn't provide us with a whole lot of direct action, but that's all right, because I think we're still formulating a plan around that. And if you have any other wild, crazy, zany ideas or rants or anything else, direct them my way. You know where to find me.
Hey, what do we need on this? Do we just need a clear, hey, we want to proceed and we want to get behind it, or we want to turn it left or right? I mean, do we have to make a decision and a motion and do all that kind of stuff to write a letter? Or?
We will do that, but not now. I think the idea is for SCCO to take a position after significant outreach to the neighbors. Gotcha. So, you know, I expressed to the city that I don't think our board can confidently say that we represent our community because we haven't had any kind of reasonable outreach for the last 2.5 years. And so, you know, that without re-engaging in some absolutely substantive way, I would be uncomfortable taking a position. And, you know, I'm not speaking for everybody else, but I can't imagine that anybody feels real great about that. So,
So
John,
Just at the beginning of COVID, we were going through that section by section, providing some edits to ARCO, or ahead of ARCO, right? So that they had our things to respond to. Have they added their edits to it now and it's at a different place?
I think so, yes.
So
Mhm.
it's now somewhat of a slightly modified since the last time we saw it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Poliski G.
So you may have just answered my question, but you mentioned earlier that the city was, you work with the city to put together a flyer, brochure. When would that happen? But based on what Don just said, we don't even have the input all into the main document yet. So
Well, I
how can you
think-
have a flyer if that
I-
isn't done?
I think that all the main document exists and it's on the project website at this point.
Okay, so given that, when would a flyer, brochure, because the topic was really to start things in motion, hopefully pick some dates, go out. We've got the 4th of July that we've just been invited to. Will there be anything available? I mean, how, you know, I wouldn't even know what to tell people.
Right.
You know, what's the plan? You know, tell me what the plan is. Give me, give me 5 minutes on the plan. If I was standing behind a booth, I couldn't do it. I mean, I could go back and refresh my memory, but it's so big. How do you cut it down? And is the city working on that? Are we working on
Yes,
that?
they're working on a summary and an FAQ sheet and things that can help people digest the basic precepts of the plan in a way that isn't too intimidating and isn't full of a whole bunch of land use gobbledygook speak. So
And we expect that when?
that's a good question. I don't know. I could check with Elena. She's working on an FAQ sheet that I just edited the other day to be, so that's part of it. I don't know. I can, anytime I get something, I can pass it on to you if you'd like, but I think in the near future, they're hoping to have something. They're trying to create an outreach plan because all the first 2.5 years, we had a consultant who specialized in outreach working with us. We won't have that consultant now because they're fully booked and they're down 2 of their employees. So it's going to be a different situation. Dawn.
Once they have an outreach plan, will it reach out only to city residents or will it reach out to county and city residents?
Yeah, the whole plan's for both, for everybody. So no, it'll be areas outside the UGB. It'll be all residents. You know, the mailers were all 97404. Everybody in 97404. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll keep you posted when I get some more information and we'll continue to have a conversation about it in all the different ways. So, thanks.